Okay, we are going to go ahead and get started. Hi, Dana. Very happy to see you and hear all about our school-based services. Um, so, everybody, welcome. Thank you. If this is your first Emerge webinar, thank you so much for joining us today. If this is not your first Emerge webinar, thanks for coming back. We have a lot of fun. We learn a lot. Sometimes I get derailed talking about how much I love our community partners, and then we have to recover from it. But it's a lot of fun, and we're very glad you're here. Before we get started, I did want to tell you about our community partner for these Emerge webinars for 2025. We are so excited to be working with Carey Estate Planning. They actually contacted us several months ago about recognizing the overlap in the families that we help and the families that they help. So they're a North Carolina estate planning law firm, proud to support Emerge Pediatric Therapy. They believe in a client-first approach with transparent pricing and team support from start to finish, leading to an overall positive experience. That sounds a lot like what we do. In addition, they're very passionate about tailored planning that best suits their clients, not just getting something on paper. They have offices in Cary, Raleigh, and Chapel Hill, and they are able to provide services for all of North Carolina. So if you are joining us from somewhere not local, they can help you as well. They do things like planning for the future, getting your will done, an update to your current estate plan, and they do a lot for families with disabilities, special needs planning, resource planning, elder law, and financial planning. So we are super excited to have them on board and very, very grateful for their partnership as we continue this educational series through our webinars this year. So with that, I will get out of the way and I will let the pro take over. So Dana, thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Allie, for getting us started. And thanks everyone for joining us today to learn more about school services and what we have to offer at Emerge. Before we get into the content of today, I'll just start by sharing a little bit about me and my background. So my name is Dana Sciascia, and I am a speech therapist at Emerge. And I started my speech therapy journey back at the University of Pittsburgh, where I earned my bachelor's degree in communication science and disorders in 2014. And then after that, I went on to earn my master's in speech language pathology in Boston from the Massachusetts General Hospital Institute of Health Professions, and that was in 2016. So since that time, my entire speech career has been focused on pediatrics across the ages from toddlerhood all the way up through the end of high school. And I've been able to support children in a variety of different therapy settings, from early intervention, home care settings, daycares and preschools, and then all of the different grades. So I joined our Emerge team in 2022. And at that time, I was looking to get back into the school system, but support students in more of a unique way, which is mostly what we'll be talking about today. And over time, I have grown into our school services coordinator. So I've been able to help kind of grow the school offerings that we're able to provide, expand our network, and expand the amount of children that we're able to help at daycare or at school. Um, some of my more specific clinical interests are focused around speech sound disorders and literacy. So I've taken a few different trainings to support in those areas. One being the prompt course, which is an approach that is based in motor speech disorders that children have. I'm also trained in the Linda Mood Bell phoneme sequencing program, which is an approach that supports both speech and literacy and kind of melds those two together since they're interconnected. I've also had just some smaller trainings in a variety of different phonological approaches to support speech. And I'm currently in the process of being certified in the Meaningful Speech Natural Language Acquisition, which is a language development course that's geared more towards our Gestalt language learning children. So when I'm not at Emerge, I enjoy spending time with my husband and my really active dog, Enzo. We're always walking and looking for new places to hike. I'm also a very active reader, which is probably why I'm very interested in literacy development. So I had my first year last year of over 52 books. So I'm hoping to make that year too this year. I'm off to a good start so far.
Way to make us all feel bad about the books that we checked off our list last year, Dana, because mine wasn't 52.
It was a
Thanks.
shock to me. It wasn't my goal. Yeah. All right. So I'll also share a bit about who we are at Emerge, who we are as a company. So we are a team of pediatric speech therapists, occupational therapists, and physical therapists. And we have three clinics across the triangle, one in Durham, one in Cary, and one in Carborough. And our Durham clinic is the largest of the three and is also where our current school team is based out of. So we're doing a lot of work with the team members in Durham and in the surrounding community there. All right, so as we're diving in here to our content, there are a few objectives that we will talk about. The first is, what are school-based therapy services? What does that look like with Emerge? Who are our providers and what are they doing when they are serving students at school? Why are school-based therapy services helpful for children? And some more about our company, what our values are, and what our differences at Emerge. And then finally, how to get involved and sign up with us. All right, so let's start by just getting into some of the basics of what school-based therapy services are and what that looks like with us at Emerge. So our team at Emerge is very committed to serving our community in many different ways. So over the years, our team has developed a lot of different specialized programs to meet needs that we're seeing kind of arise with our clients and in the communities that we're serving. So one of these growing programs is our school-based therapy service program. And the mission of this program is to provide on-site therapy services at schools or at the daycare to help make those services more accessible to families, more accessible to students, and help them thrive in different areas. So not thrive just at home, but also thrive at school and in their social lives. So that is kind of where this program came from and why we're working to expand it even further. So right now, Emerge is partnered with a variety of daycare centers, private preschools, and private grade schools, where we can offer on-site both OT and speech therapy services during the hours of the school day. So while the students are already there for school. And the reason that we're partnered with these types of programs compared to public schools is just the difference in how the structures are laid out at these schools. So in public schools, the schools already have these therapists and support personnel on staff, and they're providing services through an individualized education plan for the students. So that's something that's already kind of built into what a public school is. So for our private centers and private schools, the structure is just a little bit different, and the schools just don't typically have these type of providers on their staff. So this is where we come in to help bridge that gap and partner and serve students at school to help them get the services that they need to thrive. Our school team is currently in these private schools and preschools in the Durham area, but we are growing and we are ready to expand where we're offering into other communities that our Emerge clinics are already partnered with and serving. So that includes Cary, Apex, Morrisville, Carborough, and Chapel Hill. All right, so what does it look like when we're doing sessions at school? I'll take you through some of the basics of our structure. So when our therapists are at school, they are typically providing therapy services in a one-on-one setting with, just the child, just the therapist, and most often for 30 minutes at a time. We have found that this time frame has worked really well to make sure students are having enough time to make progress towards their goals, but also it's not too disruptive to the whole structure of their school day. We know there's a lot of things going on at school, a lot of fun things, so we want to make sure we're not having them miss out too much or, missing a huge portion of their day. So we've kind of found that sweet spot there with 30 minutes. Our therapy sessions are also typically held in a private area outside of the classroom. So sometimes in a smaller room or just a different location at the school where we can get some more focused work done with our students. But one of the great things about our services is that they also can be individually tailored to the child and to the client. So if we have a student who is working on some skills within a full group, we can also work with the teacher to make that happen. Or a student who's kind of at that level where they're needing to kind of generalize what they've been working on in therapy, we can find a way to have either part of the session or the whole session in a different setting. So maybe at recess or at circle time. So that's something that therapists can work closely with the teachers and administrators to make sure that the structure is looking like what's best for the student. Another great thing about our structure is while the therapists are at school, they can have some time to connect with the teachers and the other support staff that's there. So we can provide resources and suggestions to the teachers to help the child generalize their skills and also to make the teachers' lives a little bit easier too of what they can try to do to help their child be the most successful in their classroom. So we're able to also collaborate with team members that we don't usually get access to, which is great. And finally, our school-based services are considered to be an outpatient service. So that means that these services are paid for by families or by eligible insurance providers and is not a cost that the school is covering. So at Emerge, we are in network with Medicaid and TRICARE insurance plans, so we can fully bill those for sessions. And for all other insurance plans, we are out of network, so the parents are paying for that service up front. But we do have a really great billing team that works really hard to file for insurance. So we provide complimentary filing to those other private insurance plans. So based on the specifics of a plan, some of that session cost may be reimbursed. So that's another way to help out with the cost of therapy. Okay, so how do we get started with services? We have a structure that we have developed and used to help identify kids who need our support and get them started with therapy as soon as we can so they can start making progress. So the first thing that we need to do is get a referral and know who needs our support. So what we do to the schools that we partner with is provide some information sheets to the school team to distribute to their school community and their parents. So this sheet will give kind of a rundown to the family of who we are, what's included in the screening, what the cost is, and how to sign up. And sometimes we get parents who will kind of directly bring that referral to us, which is great. But we're finding that we often rely on teachers to be the ones who are really good at identifying which students might need our help and starting those conversations with families to share like who we are and that we're available to help. So teachers are really important for us in that process to help get our kiddos up and running. The next step is a screening. So once we have a referral and have identified a new student, our therapist will schedule a 30-minute screening with the student to gather some information. So to find what the student's strengths are, what things are more challenging for them, what goals they might need, and what recommendations would be for next steps. I do want to note also that we know that this structure may not work for every student, and some just may require a little bit more time or different types of resources to get going. So we're really lucky on our team to also have the support of our Emerge clinics. So if that happens, we can also make some plans to set up a lengthier evaluation in our clinic to have access to more time and just different resources. So that's an option as well. So following that screening, Our therapist will also compile the results, have a written summary for the family so that they can see kind of exactly what they did and what is recommended. So they'll share that with the family and discuss next steps. If the family does want to move forward with services, then our therapist will also be the one to talk to teachers, talk to administrators to get that schedule coordinated. So the family doesn't have to worry about that part. That's something that our teachers and therapists will work on directly together. And then finally, once we have a family ready to start with services, therapy can begin. Our therapists are scheduling sessions for the same time on a weekly basis so that there's consistency for the child and consistency for the school too, so the teachers know when we will be there each week. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about who our providers are and what they are doing with students while they are in school. So as I mentioned earlier, our current school team is made up of speech therapists and occupational therapists. And this has kind of depended on the different school availability and interest where we're sending our therapists. So some schools we have both speech and OT services provided. Other schools it's just one or the other. So this kind of depends on what the need is at the school. We have some schools where we have a lot of children interested in need of speech, but not as much OT, and sometimes the reverse. So that just kind of depends on need and availability. That's something we could figure out as we progress, what type of therapist we would be able to send to your school. Okay, so let's start with learning more about speech therapists and what our role is. So speech therapists are providing assessment, intervention, and consultation related to a child's communication skills. And there's a whole lot of things that fall under the umbrella of communication skills. We have a very wide scope of practice. So I'll just give some extra information to a few of these areas. One of the things that we commonly work with and commonly are referred for are speech sound scales. So this could be articulation of certain sounds, phonological skills, so using different patterns of sounds and language, or just overall speech intelligibility. How clear is a child's speech to their friends, their teachers? So that is something that we're really commonly working on in school. The next area that we work on are language skills, including both receptive and expressive language skills. So the full title of our job is speech language pathologist. So that is something that we are commonly working on. And this would include both our understanding and use of language. So how can children understand vocabulary, understand different sentence structures? And then on the flip side, how are they able to express their ideas using vocabulary and sentence structures, using clear and appropriate grammar, things like that. So those are some of the language skills that we work on. Related to that are narrative language skills. And I kind of see this as the culmination of receptive and expressive language skills, kind of everything coming together to that bigger picture. So being able to tell a story or retell about something that has happened in your life, needing to bring all of those smaller language skills together into a larger narrative. So that's something we're commonly supporting as well. Literacy skills, which we'll talk a little bit more about soon, but this is something that is in a speech therapist scope of practice, and we're commonly working on reading and writing to help students achieve success in those areas. And then also a few other areas in our scope are supporting social skills, working on fluency and stuttering, voice, which could be voice volume, voice pitch, things like that. And finally, executive functioning skills, which refers to a few different things like organization of tasks or the ability to kind of plan and execute on a task. That is also something that requires language and communication. So that falls under our scope of practice. Okay, so what is this looking like when we're in the school day? We have found kind of over the years that we have some patterns of things that we're working on and types of referrals that we're seeing from teachers. So I pulled together like the 5 most common things that we are seeing on our referral forms or that we're working on with our students. So the first thing that we are probably working on the most in school, or the thing we hear the most from teachers is students having trouble producing their speech sounds. So again, this sounds like a student kind of trouble producing maybe one sound or maybe a whole bunch of patterns of different sounds. This is really important for school because if their speech is hard to understand in a classroom, a child may kind of get frustrated and not be able to kind of connect as clearly as they want with their peers and teachers. Especially with our younger ones, we know the most updated research is showing us that by 5 years old, almost all speech sounds are fully developed. So if you're hearing any of these kind of lingering difficulty with speech sounds, that's a really good sign that this student would benefit from a referral from us. So that's something that we're working on very frequently. The second most common reason that we receive referrals is for trouble with phonological awareness and literacy. So again, the research shows us that students who have speech and language delays are also at a higher risk of having difficulty learning how to read. And speech and language are really foundational for reading. So that's why we're involved, and that's why we want to get in and help as soon as we can. So when we're working on phonological awareness, some of those things might be working on rhyming or with students who have some trouble identifying sounds in a word. So hearing a word and being able to tell what the first sound in that word is, or maybe the last sound. And similarly, being able to manipulate sounds. So if I have a word and I want to change that first sound, what does that new word make? So these are all things that require speech skills and are foundational for reading. And then as we get to more of that reading level, we're also able to support with decoding words, supporting a student's vocabulary. So as they're reading, making sure they understand the vocabulary that's in their text, and then putting all of that together for comprehension, understanding the vocabulary and sentence structures that are in those books. Those are all of the different ways that we're supporting reading in school. All right, the third most common referral reason we hear from teachers is difficulty following directions. We know that directions are really important at school and are something that are being given throughout the day. Um, so what we do as speech therapists is take a closer look and figure out why the student is having trouble following directions. Maybe they're having trouble recalling and executing the directions. So kind of holding all of that language in their working memory and then being able to execute that task. So that could be one reason that we're helping them. Or some of the language that is being used in the direction could be a challenge for a child with a language delay. So for example, some directions that we hear at school use a lot of time words like before and after, or space words like under and next to. So like before you get your pencil, put your book under your desk. So students with language delays can have a harder time developing understanding of those concepts. So by working on the language that's embedded in those directions, we can help that student be more successful in their classroom. All right. Another reason we commonly receive referrals is for difficulty explaining ideas. So this would be not as much the like articulation and clarity of an idea, but more of the content of what a child is communicating. So that could look like trouble with sentence formation. So being able to put each part of speech in the right order of their sentence or expand their sentence to provide more detail. This could also look like having some limited vocabulary. So maybe students who are using, oops, let me go back here, a lot of words like this or that, but not being very specific with that vocabulary. So we want to give them that vocabulary expansion. Or we hear students just being less clear in their ideas because of grammar. So having some difficulty with pronouns or verb tenses, noun forms, things like that. So those are all different aspects of language that could impact the clarity of ideas in the classroom. And finally, the last reason that we are seeing a lot of referrals for speech in school is trouble with sharing stories and narratives. So this is something that children are asked to do a lot at school. It could look like after listening to a story from a teacher, being asked to retell what that story was about, or just socially sharing about what you did over the weekend, or sharing about your favorite birthday or trip, things that kind of up naturally in conversation. That can be a challenge for our students with language delays. So they're needing to recall all of that information, get the vocabulary, get the sentence structure, and put it all together in a way that makes sense. So that's an area we're also working on to support students academically and socially. Okay, so let's talk more about OT now and what an occupational therapist is doing at school. So our OTs are providing assessment, intervention, and consultation related to a child's fine motor skills, sensory processing, self-regulation, and self-care. So this may include things like handwriting, so being able to hold a pencil, form letters, use spacing, all of those things that fall under handwriting. It also includes fine motor skills and coordination. So that refers to using smaller movements of the hand. So again, maybe holding a pencil or picking up smaller objects, especially in those younger years. This also includes sensory processing and regulation. So this refers to how a child is able to kind of take in all of the senses around them, visual, auditory, and kind of filter things out and regulate their bodies in various environments. OTs are also supporting activities of daily living and self-help skills. So this could look like getting shoes on, washing hands, going to the bathroom. So all of those really functional skills that they're developing. And finally, OTs are also supporting social skills and executive functioning, just through a slightly different lens than speech is, which we'll talk about a little more. Okay, so I've also pulled together the top 5 reasons that we are seeing referrals for OT services at school from teachers and from families. So the top reason we are seeing OT referrals in school is for fine motor skills, which makes sense because this is embedded in so many tasks at school. So that could be being able to grip a pencil, use scissors or other like markers, other materials like that in school, or having writing challenges. Again, holding a pencil, forming letters, spacing, things like that. This could also look like being able to use their hands for small objects, or using fasteners, like getting their coat button to go out for recess. So those are things that our OTs are supporting in school. The second most common reason for OT referrals is visual motor skills. So this refers to difficulty with hand-eye coordination, visual tracking, or processing visual information. So in school, this could look like having difficulty copying from the board. So students are needing to kind of look up at the board to see the information, look at their paper, and back at the board. So being able to coordinate all of that tracking. Or this could look like having spacing issues with their writing. So being able to track the space between letters or between words to make their writing accurate and legible to the audience. The third top reason that our OTs are receiving referrals at school are for sensory processing, which we find this is a really important one in school. So again, this refers to having difficulty integrating all of the different sensory information in their environments. And we know there's a lot going on at school between lots of different peers moving around the building. So this can be a challenge for some of our students. And what that could look like is a student just being like really close to other people and not having kind of that personal space, or running into objects, crashing into a lot of things. So are some signs that a child might have difficulty kind of regulating in the classroom. So our OTs are able to kind of see that classroom environment and figure out what might be working well for that student, what might not be working well, and make some suggestions to the teachers to support their sensory skills. All right, and the last two here, the common reasons that we're seeing for OT is social participation. So OTs are helping students who have difficulty interacting with peers due to maybe their motor skills. So maybe with their fine motor skills, play is harder for them, like stacking blocks or doing puzzles. So if that's harder for a child, they might not be able to as easily participate in that task with a friend, or having sensory difficulties impacting their play skills. Maybe if the classroom is a little bit too noisy during playtime, that will be hard for that student. So our OTs are supporting those skills. And finally, gross motor skills. Our OTs can also help students that have difficulty with coordinating, like just their overall body movements and their postural control. So this could look like a student kind of having trouble transitioning between different classrooms during the day, sitting in circle time with their postural control, or playing on the playground with their friends. So our OTs can help support that postural control, find different tools that the student might need to use in class to better access their environment.
Hey, Dana, can I ask you a quick question?
Yes.
So number 3, I find this really interesting because teachers are like obviously on like the front lines of so many of these things. So number 3, sensory processing, but then number 4 was socialization, but sort of with the sensory processing tied into that. Is the difference which one you notice first?
So that is a good question. It could be. And again, I'm not an OT, so I'll do my best to answer
Yeah.
these questions.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But so, oops.
I'm thinking for like things that you're looking for that you might want to keep an eye out for referrals. Like you see kids as a teacher, you see kids socialize all the time. So it, struggles with socialization may present themselves more at like, even if it is a sensory concern, it may come out in that social setting. So I'm kind of thinking like, is that the difference, that like sensory processing is one thing to spot, but sensory processing sort of as you're trying to navigate a social situation is a different.
Yeah, so that could be another sign of like what is really going on. And these
Yeah,
points could be like kind of connected. And that could almost be like another example under here of like difficulty kind of running into objects or difficulty in play.
yeah,
So yeah, so that could be another sign to look out for, that, okay, this student is having some trouble in play. Is it because they don't get along? Is it because they're having sensory
yeah.
like something about the environment is just not working for them. So that could be another sign to like dig deeper into that.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so let's move into kind of the why behind our program and why we're offering school-based services and why it's helpful to our students. So one of the reasons that our school-based services are beneficial to students is that we're able to support the academic and the classroom success. So many of the skills that we're working on in speech and OT are really foundational for school, whether that is just kind of being a member of a classroom, being able to kind of be with the group and follow directions, um, and then also being able to engage with that actual academic material. So understanding the vocabulary and the concepts that are in there, and being able to build and maintain social relationships. So socialization is a huge part of school and is really important for students. So we're able to support that while we're there. And one of the great things about us being right on site is that we're able to see exactly what's going on in the classroom. So we can see exactly what students are learning, exactly what the classroom looks like if we need to make some accommodations. So Sometimes we're able to, if we're not at school, kind of gather that information from the parents, but it's not quite the same as being able to be there and get our eyes directly on the classroom content. So having that easy access is really beneficial for our therapy planning. We also can get improved therapy outcomes by providing services at school. So we know from research that therapy is best provided in a functional environment for the child, and home is not the only functional environment. We know students spend a ton of their week at school. It's a really important place for them. So that is also a functional environment. So when we're providing our therapy there, we have more functional and improved outcomes, which is the whole goal of what we're doing.
I think that's the thing that really stands out to me the most is imagining a kiddo in therapy for 30 minutes in the middle of the day and then having the opportunity to literally like go back into the classroom and put those things into practice, and not having the like transition of taking something from like the emerge building to then the next day at school. So I think for the right fit, that's such a cool opportunity.
Yes, absolutely. And we're able to, so what we try to do with most of our kiddos is once we finish our session, we try to save kind of a minute or two, depending on the teacher's schedule, if we can, to
Mhm.
kind of give them like a little overview of what we did and something that might be helpful. So that again, we have that direct session ends
Yeah.
and something like a direct tip for the teacher
Yeah.
to do. So it's really, it's cool to see that like
Mhm.
ease of transition. Another benefit we find with having school-based service is that it's really convenient for families. So by coming to the child, we can ease that burden on caregivers who already have really busy schedules and trying to fit in an appointment after school, or for students after having a long day of school and being tired and then going to therapy. So by easing this burden on the family, we can then have more consistent care, have more regular sessions, which again will lead to better and quicker outcomes for our students. And finally, by having sessions at school, we often can provide quicker access to care. So many therapy clinics everywhere, all across, have lengthy waiting lists, especially for those like highly desired after school appointment times. So by bringing the service to the child, we can often get them in for therapy sooner and they can get a head start towards reaching their goals. All right, so as we wrap up here, I'll talk a little bit more about who we are as an Emerge team and why we hope that you will partner with us. So at Emerge, we take pride in who we are as a team and the level and quality of care that we provide. And we really do think that we offer something different from others in our area. One of the main reasons being that we are a neurodiversity affirming clinic, and we use strengths-based approaches. So we recognize that all brains are different, all brains are beautiful, and we want to make sure we understand learning differences and what our strengths are of the clients. So not only we can form a really good like social relationship and connection with them, but also do the best to help set them up for success with their goals. So that's something that's really important to us as a whole and that we carry into our practice. We also practice play-based therapy that's rooted in evidence-based practice. So we think that children make the most progress when they're having fun. So we want to follow their lead, do things that they like, use their interests so that they are engaged with us, so that they understand why this matters, why it's functional for their life, and just they can enjoy being there. I love going to pick up students and they are like ready to run out the door and work together. So that's something that's really important for us as a team. We also are a very large multidisciplinary team. We have a ton of speech therapists, OTs, and physical therapists. And we know how important this is for progress with children. We don't just treat a certain part in isolation, and we know that the whole child needs to be considered. And from my own lens as a speech therapist, I know how lucky I am to have a team of OTs by my side, where I have students I'm working with who also need some sensory supports to be able to do their best work. Or I have kids who are working on speech sound disorders, but their postural control isn't the best. And that can be hard to get the most breath support for speech. So I have my OTs to connect with to get some strategies for positioning and things like that to support my work. And one of the other things that we are, proud to keep at our forefront is the focus on involving families and carryover. So we want to support not only our clients, but their families as much as possible, provide home practice, provide tips so that our child can make progress outside of therapy and so that their caregivers can feel empowered as well. A few things too that are kind of specific to our school team at Emerge that are kind of unique to us are that our school team is a highly trained and specialized team. So we have a lot of different trainings under our belt, but we also have consistent access to continuing education. Our Emerge really prioritizes learning, so we're able to access what we need to very easily. Our school team also will make quite an effort to involve caregivers and parents in the process. So we know one of the things that's different about being at school is that we don't have families directly with us to talk with. So in order to kind of bridge that gap, we send daily session notes and updates home to families. So even though the parent was not right there bringing them to the session, they still know what their goals are, what we worked on that day, what went well, and what they can do at home or what we might do next week. So we're keeping parents involved as much as possible. Our school team also benefits from the support of our large established clinics. So even though we are traveling around all day, doesn't mean we are lacking in resource or material. We have the ability to use all of the assessments and therapy materials we need from our clinics, and again, have a big support system around us to help with everything from administrative side of the job to having other therapists to connect with. And finally, something that I think is probably the most unique is that we're able to use our clinic space when needed. So if school is closed for a day off or in the summer, that doesn't mean that therapy stops. We're able to continue working with our students in one of our clinics, which will keep care continuous and keep students on the right track towards their goals. Right. So as we wrap up here, um, we would love to talk with you more if you think that school-based services would be a good fit for your school or daycare. We'd be happy to answer any other questions you have or specific questions to your center. So we'd love to talk with you. We are ready to expand our service offerings. We have some limited availability for this school year and much more coming in the 2025-2026 school year. So please reach out. I'll have our contact information on the next couple of slides. So we'd love to connect with you. And I will kick us back to Allie here too to wrap up for today.
Thank you, Dana. It's such a selfish thing, but I learned so much in these webinars. Like, I obviously work for Emerge every day, but it's so great to have the opportunity to like dive into these programs and just learn more from directly from the people doing this work every day. So thank you for your time and expertise. I know that I learned a lot, and I'm sure all of our friends that are in here as well did. I put a message in the chat that you could use the chat if you have any questions. If you don't want to ask them here, we will have Dana's information on the next slide and you can contact her directly. But we did want to let everyone know that this is part of a series. So throughout 2025, on the first Friday of the month, we are going to be offering a webinar on various community building topics. So in the fall, we really dove into some specific specialties that we offer at Emerge, and school-based services still falls under that, but it is a way for us to build our community and provide more for our current emerge families and expand who we're connecting with and really give the best care that we can through all of the resources that we have. So I wanted to put this up here. Dana shared these so that hopefully we will see some familiar faces throughout the year. March 7th, we are going to be talking about our virtual services. So we are able to offer speech services and reading services virtually, which really expands who we're able to support. So not just Cary, Carrboro, Durham. We can actually work with kids in the entire state of North Carolina. So we're excited to share more there. Um, April 4th, we're going to have a lot of our therapists, some of our admin, our practice owner talk about what we're currently reading. One great thing about our staff is they take the time to educate themselves and they're always learning. So we're reading books about how to be better communicators with each other, getting a diagnosis you weren't expecting as an adult, or did someone you love just get an ADHD or a neurodivergence diagnosis? And so we want to share some of these things that we're reading with all of you to expand. Maybe you'll catch Dana on her 52 books this year, but there's just so many great resources out there. And I learn so much from our therapists every day. And I wanted other people to have the opportunity to do the same. And then speaking of adult diagnosis, May 2nd, we're going to talk about the aha moment. I can personally attest to this, having that aha moment of someone giving you a diagnosis and connecting a lot of the dots for you of why your brain works the way that it works, how your communication could be affected by that. And that aha moment of like, oh my gosh, everything just makes so much sense now. And now I can really see this path forward. So I'm super excited about that one. I know we have a lot of emerge families too who are navigating their child's care while also learning about what their needs are in this realm. So please join us on any of those days. I believe if you go to our website with the QR code, you can register for all of them right now. So go ahead and register for all of them, and then we'll just remind you that they're coming, and it'll be super easy. So that's what we've got in the pipeline for you. Next slide should be Dana's contact info. Yep. If you are like me and you just want to keep learning from Dana and keep asking her all the questions, this is her email to do so. We would love to talk to you about our plans to expand our school-based services and create more opportunities for kids in our communities. So please don't hesitate to reach out and let's kick off the process of working together. We also wanted to share our practice owner and executive director, Brittany. She's been very involved in these webinars and mapping out the plans. And we're just very mindful of what we're sharing as far as like her being our community leader and us trying to connect our community. So that's her contact information. She would love to hear from you. And we're just so thrilled that everybody was here today. Dana, thank you again for your time and expertise. If you were here watching live, thank you so much for giving us your time on a Friday morning. And if you're watching this later, thank you for taking the time to get caught up, check in with us. And we can't wait to hear from all of you. Dana, anything else?
I think that wraps it up for today. Yeah, thanks so much for everything.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you. And also to Cary Estate Planning, we're just grateful for their partnership and that they've made these possible and free. And also check your inboxes because some of you in here are going to have free coffee in your inbox sometime soon. So thank you guys so much for everything. Thrilled that you guys were here. Dana, you're the best. Appreciate all of you. Have wonderful weekends.
Thank you for joining, everyone.